My wife Lauren told me she needed a break. She looked at me, her eyes tired, but with a little spark I hadn't seen in a while. "Just a weekend with the girls at the lake," she said, her voice soft. I smiled, gave her a hug, and told her she absolutely deserved it. We all need to recharge sometimes, right? She's been working so hard, juggling everything. So I told her to go, have fun, and not worry about a thing back home. She started packing almost immediately, with this burst of energy that was both exciting and a little strange. I saw her pulling things out of her closet, things I hadn't seen her wear in ages. There were a couple of new dresses, still with the tags on them. One was a slinky black number, the other a deep red that shimmered under the light. Then she laid out this tiny bottle of perfume on the dresser, one I'd never smelled before. It was floral, but had this musky, mysterious undertone. And the shoes, ... She packed these tall, strappy heels. I remember thinking, those don't look right for hiking around a lake. A weird feeling started to creep into my gut. It was a cold, quiet whisper that just wouldn't go away. This doesn't feel like a girl's trip. I tried to shake it off. I was being paranoid, right? She deserves to feel beautiful, to dress up with her friends even if they are just going to the lake. Maybe they were planning a fancy dinner at some lakeside restaurant. I convinced myself that was it. I was just overthinking things. I helped her carry her bag to the car, gave her a long kiss goodbye, and told her to be safe. I watched her drive away, waving until her car was just a tiny speck down the road. The house felt so empty after she left. The silence was deafening. I tried to distract myself. I put on a movie, ordered a pizza, tried to enjoy the quiet, but that nagging feeling in my stomach just grew stronger. It was like an itch I couldn't scratch. The images of the dresses, the perfume, the heels, they kept flashing in my mind. Why would she need all that for a rustic cabin by the lake? I trust my wife, I really do. But I also trust my gut, and my gut was screaming at me that something was wrong. I couldn't take it anymore. I picked up my phone, my hand trembling slightly. A while back, we had set up location sharing on our phones. 'Twas for emergencies, you know, just in case something happened. I never thought I'd use it like this. I told myself I was just checking to make sure she got there safely. My finger hovered over her icon on the map. I took a deep breath and tapped it. My heart sank. The little dot representing her car wasn't heading north toward the lake. It was moving steadily south, deeper and deeper into the city. My mind raced. Maybe she was just picking up a friend in the city first. That had to be it. I tried to reason with the panic rising in my chest. But her friends, they all live out in the suburbs, near us. None of them live downtown. I watched the dot on the screen for what felt like an eternity. It didn't stop to pick anyone up. It just kept going, straight into the heart of the city's trendy-ass district, an area filled with expensive hotels, rooftop bars, and five-star restaurants. The lake was ours, in the opposite direction. The dot finally came to a stop. It wasn't at a friend's apartment. It wasn't at a cute brunch spot where she might be meeting her friends before heading out. It was parked right in front of the Starlight Hotel, one of the most luxurious, most romantic, and most expensive hotels in the entire city. My blood ran cold. There was no plausible explanation. You don't go to the Starlight Hotel for a girls' trip before heading to a cabin. You just don't. The whisper in my gut was now a full-blown scream. This isn't a girls' trip. This is a lie. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Every scenario that ran through my head was worse than the last. Who was she meeting there? Why the elaborate lie? I thought about everything, our entire marriage. Were there other signs I had missed? Moments of distance, late nights at work, conversations that suddenly stopped when I walked into the room. My mind was a tornado of doubt and hurt. I wanted to call her, to scream at her, to demand an explanation. But what would I say? "Hey Lauren, I know you're not at the lake because I tracked your phone like a psycho. I decided against calling. I needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes, even though I knew it would shatter my world. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, and got in my car. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I had to go there. The drive into the city was a blur. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. The city lights, which usually looked so beautiful, seemed harsh and mocking. Every happy couple I saw walking on the street felt like a personal insult. I parked a block away from the hotel, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. The Starlight was all lit up, its grand entrance bustling with people. I just sat there in my car, staring. What was I even doing? Was I really going to walk in there? What if I saw her? What would I do? What if I saw her with someone else? The thought was so painful, it felt like a physical blow. I could just turn around, drive home, and pretend I never saw anything. I could live in blissful ignorance, at least for a while. But I couldn't. I knew I couldn't. The truth, no matter how ugly, was better than living a lie. I had to know. Taking the deepest breath of my life, I got out of the car and started walking toward the hotel entrance. Every step felt like I was walking through cement. The doorman gave me a polite nod as I walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was even more opulent than I imagined. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, people in expensive clothes laughing and drinking champagne. It felt like another world. And then I saw her. She was standing near the grand piano in the center of the lobby. She was wearing the red dress. It clung to her in all the right ways, and she looked absolutely stunning. My breath caught in my throat. For a second, just a split second, I felt a surge of pride. That's my wife. But the feeling vanished as quickly as it came. She wasn't alone. A man was standing next to her, his hand resting casually on the small of her back. He was tall, dressed in a sharp suit, and he was laughing at something she said. And she was looking up at him with a smile I had unseen her give me in years. A genuine, uninhibited, joyful smile. My world stopped turning. They started walking toward the elevators, his arm now wrapped around her waist. They looked like a perfect couple. They looked happy. I was frozen in place, a ghost in their perfect little world. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't even think. It was all real. It's my worst fears, confirmed in the most brutal way possible. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. Just before the doors closed, he leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck. It was a deep, passionate kiss. And she kissed him back. The door slid shut, leaving me standing alone in the middle of a crowded lobby, my entire life in ruins around me. The girls' trip was a lie, and the truth was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I just... I couldn't wrap my head around it. This wasn't happening. Not to us. We were supposed to be different. Maybe she just changed her mind, right? Maybe she decided to have a girls' night, or she went to a spa, or literally anything else. My mind was racing, trying to find a plausible explanation. Any reason that wasn't the one staring me in the face. But the logical part of my brain, the part that was screaming in terror, knew that wasn't it. The curiosity, it was like an itch I couldn't scratch, a physical ache in my chest. I had to know. I had to see it for myself, even if it shattered me. So I did the thing you see in movies, the thing you swear you'd never do. I got in my car. The engine turning over sounded deafening in the silence of my garage. I drove to the hotel her phone had pinged at. The city lights blurred past my window, each one a fuzzy star in a universe that was quickly falling apart. I remember thinking how surreal it all felt. Like I was watching someone else's life, not living my own. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight, my knuckles were white. My heart was a drum solo against my ribs, so loud I was sure people in other cars could hear it. Boom, boom, boom. Countdown to the end of everything I knew. I parked across the street in the shadows, feeling like some kind of private eye in a cheap detective novel. I just waited. I don't know how long I sat there. It could have been 10 minutes or an hour. Time had lost all meaning. All I could do was stare at the brightly lit entrance of that fancy hotel, a place we could never afford. My breath kept catching in my throat. Every couple that walked out, my stomach would lurch. Was that them? No. What about them? No. I was torturing myself, second by second. Part of me was praying she'd walk out alone, that this was all a giant, horrible misunderstanding. Another, darker part of me just wanted the waiting to be over. And then, I saw her. Time didn't just slow down. It stopped. The whole world went silent except for the blood rushing in my ears. She was there, standing under the golden light of the hotel awning, and she was laughing. It was a laugh I hadn't heard in so long. A genuine, carefree, full-bodied laugh that used to be reserved for me. She wasn't alone. She was holding hands with a man. A man I'd never seen before. He was the kind of guy you see on a magazine cover. He had an expensive watch that glinted under the light, a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than my car, and this easy, confident grin that made my blood run cold. He looked like he owned the world. And in that moment, he owned mine. He leaned in and kissed her on the cheek. It wasn't a friendly peck. It was familiar, intimate, the kind of gesture you do 100 times, 1,000 times, without even thinking about it. It was proprietary. He was claiming her, right there in front of me, and she was letting him. And her face, she looked happy. That's the word that broke me. Not guilty, not conflicted, not sad. Happy. It was a pure, unadulterated happiness that I hadn't been able to give her in months, maybe even longer. A glow radiated from her, a lightness in her posture. She looked like the woman I first fell in love with, but she was looking at him that way, not me. I sat there, frozen, a ghost in a metal shell, watching the love of my life be happy with someone else. All the air left my lungs. It was like being punched in the gut and the heart at the same time. The denial, the hope, it all evaporated, leaving behind this cold, hard, undeniable truth. My world hadn't just tilted on its axis. It had been completely obliterated. This wasn't a nightmare I was going to wake up from. This was my new reality. The man in the expensive suit, the confident grin, the familiar kiss. They were my reality now. And I just sat there, in the dark, watching them walk away, hand in hand, into a life that didn't include me. The drive home was a complete blur. I don't remember the turns I made or the traffic lights I stopped at. It's a miracle I made it back in one piece. I walked into our apartment, the place that was supposed to be our sanctuary, and it felt like a stranger's house. Every picture of us on the wall felt like a lie. Her favorite mug on the counter, the book she was reading on the nightstand, her scent on the pillows. It was all evidence of a life that was now a crime scene. I sank onto the edge of the bed we shared, and just stared at the empty space beside me. The silence was heavier than any sound. It was filled with unspoken words, broken promises, and the ghost of her laughter with him. I thought about all the sacrifices, the late nights I worked, the dreams I put on hold for us. I replayed our recent conversations, searching for clues I'd missed. Were there signs? Was I just too blind to see them? The working late nights, the phone-died excuses, the sudden distance that I'd chalked up to stress. It all clicked into place, forming a hideous mosaic of deceit. I felt so stupid, so naive. How could I have not known? How could the person I trusted more than anyone in the world do this? The questions swirled in my head, a relentless tornado of pain and confusion. There were no answers. There was just the cold, empty apartment and the crushing weight of a future that had been stolen from me. In that moment, a strange calm washed over the storm inside me. It wasn't peace, it was resignation. The fight had gone out of me. The image of her happy face, her radiant smile for him, was burned into my memory. Maybe this was what she wanted. Maybe he could give her a life I never could. The fancy hotels, the expensive suits, the carefree laughter. If that's what made her happy, who was I to stand in the way? But that didn't stop the searing pain. It didn't stop my heart from feeling like it had been ripped out of my chest and stomped on. I knew, sitting there in the dark, that nothing would ever be the same again. This was the end of one chapter. And I had no idea how to even begin to write the next one. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something similar, you know how isolating it can feel. Sharing this is part of my healing, and I hope it helps someone else feel a little less alone. If you want to follow along with my journey, please subscribe to the channel. It means more than you know. The evidence was stacking up, but I needed something concrete, something undeniable. So I took photos. It felt like I was outside my own body, watching a stranger document the end of his world. Every step they took, every touch they shared, I captured it. My hands were shaking, but the images were crystal clear. That same night, as I sat in my car in that sterile parking lot, my phone buzzed. It was her. A text message that read, "Miss you, honey. Going to bed early? Sweet dreams. See you Sunday." My heart felt like a block of ice in my chest. I stared at the words, the little heart emoji mocking me, while just 100 feet away, she was dancing in that dim hotel bar with another man. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I didn't reply. What could I even say? The next day, the raw shock started to fade, replaced by a cold, calculated clarity. I knew emotions would run high later. I knew there would be denials, gaslighting, attempts to twist reality. I needed proof that couldn't be argued away. I went and bought a cheap burner phone and created a new anonymous account. From that account, I sent all the pictures to my own phone. It was a weirdly formal process, like I was preparing evidence for a trial, my trial. I needed to see them on my own device, a permanent record of the betrayal. So that when the emotional storm hit, I wouldn't doubt my own sanity. I saved every single one. The photo of them laughing at the bar. The one where his hand was on her back. The one of them walking towards the elevator. Each image was a nail in the coffin of our relationship. With the evidence secured, I made the next move. I called her best friend, Sarah. This was the friend Lauren supposedly went on this girl's wellness retreat with. My heart was pounding as the phone rang. I tried to keep my voice steady, casual even. "Hey Sarah, how's it going? Just checking in. How was the retreat?" There was a pause on the other end. It's a slight, almost imperceptible hesitation that spoke volumes. Then her voice came back, laced with confusion. "Wait. What retreat?" "Lauren told me she was with you this weekend, visiting your parents." The line went silent, but my world exploded. The lie wasn't just a simple fabrication, it was a carefully constructed web. She had lied to everyone. She hadn't just deceived me, she'd isolated me, creating two separate realities where she could move freely between them. That was the moment I understood the depth of the deception. It wasn't a mistake, it was a plan. She came home on Sunday night, exactly as she said she would. She walked in carrying a bag of cheap souvenirs and a bright, fake smile. She launched into a detailed story about the yoga sessions, the amazing vegan food, and the deep conversations she had with Sarah. She even had a little gift for me. A keychain from the town she supposedly visited. I played along. I took the keychain, I smiled, I asked all the right questions. I even made her favorite dinner. As we sat there, eating the meal I had prepared, I listened to her weave more threads into her tapestry of lies. I nodded and smiled, and at one point, I even thanked her for giving me some space this weekend. The look of relief on her face was sickening. She thought she had gotten away with it. She thought I was the same trusting fool she had left behind on Friday. After dinner, as she was telling me another fabricated anecdote about the trip, I calmly stood up and walked over to my desk. I picked up a plain white envelope, felt heavy in my hand, heavy with the truth. I walked back to the table and placed it in front of her. She looked at it, then at me, her smile faltering. "What's this?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. I didn't say a word. I just nodded for her to open it. Her fingers fumbled with the seal. She pulled out the contents, and the first photo slid onto the table. It was the one of her and him, laughing at the bar. The color drained from her face. She went completely pale, a stark white that I had never seen before. She slowly pulled out the next photo, and the next. Her hands started to tremble. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with panic and disbelief. The mask was gone. The performance was over. I looked right back at her, and all the anger, all the pain, it just coalesced into a quiet, cold calm. I spoke softly, my voice barely a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a knife. I hope he was worth the weekend. For a split second, her instinct took over. She tried to deny it. "What is this? This isn't what it looks like." The words tumbled out, desperate and clumsy. But the photos were right there. The denial lasted less than 5 seconds before it crumbled into a choked sob. Then came the begging. "Please, please, we can talk about this. It was a mistake. A horrible mistake." She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. It was a stunningly fast transition: denial, despair, begging, all within the span of a single minute. And as she fell apart in front of me, I waited to feel something. Anger, satisfaction, sadness. But there was nothing. All I felt was a profound, echoing silence inside me. The storm had passed, and all that was left was the quiet aftermath. The end? It was finally over.